Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Erica, and it is the start of a new year. 2025 is upon us, and the end of a year and the beginning of a year, I think about what do I want to focus on with my reading next year. I don't know. I think about a lot of goals for the year, at the end and the beginning, which I think is pretty normal, but this is a channel where I talk about book stuff, so that's the only goals I'm going to be talking about today is reading related. With the goals that I've been thinking about, none of them are really like rigidly numbers related because that just feels too strict for how my approach has been to reading. At the end of the day, like, reading is one of my hobbies and I read for fun and I want it to be fun. So while I do like to keep track of stuff like different statistics for reading, like I keep track of how many books I read, how many pages I read, each year, and what my average rating is. But like, I find it fun to keep track of those things, but I don't have hard numbers that I feel like I need to meet, because I just feel like that would, for me anyway, it would suck a lot of the fun out of it. So my goal is always have fun reading. You know what? That's how I approach a lot of things. I'm not a competitive person, like, at all. And so, when I'm playing a game with people, right? Any kind of game it could be, and I'm playing with people who are competitive, I'm like, you know what? Let's just say that you win, even though we haven't really even started yet. And then we can just enjoy what's going to happen. Because, like, I don't care if I win things. It's not something that motivates me. But I want everybody to have a good time, including myself. And that's how I feel with reading. I guess that's my goal, is I want to have a good time, right? And I mean, it's an intangible goal. How does one measure that? I guess I can kind of measure that with book ratings. And just, I don't know, my general feeling, a feeling that might be difficult to describe, but it's not really something that can be, I think, measured very clearly. And so I just have to go with, I want to just have a good time. And I know when I'm not having a good time, and I want it to not be that. So, but I do have some actual goals. Some goals that I want to keep in mind throughout 2025 as I'm choosing books. In 2024, I only had a couple of goals for 2024. My goals for 2024 were, I want to almost entirely read books that I already own. Like, I intentionally focused on just the books that I own. I only borrowed a few books from the library in 2024, which is unusual. Like, I love libraries. Huge proponent of libraries. Everyone, if you have access to a library, strongly advocate that you get books from there, because they're great. Library's good. So this is not to poo-poo on libraries, because I do love libraries, but my book collection is huge. And I'm like, reading books and collecting books are two separate hobbies, and I do have both hobbies that I participate in, but I don't want to own books that I'm not reading. Like, that just sit here that I would like never read. I don't want that. Like, that's not one of my goals. I only want to own books that I like am intentionally buying because I have read them or I want to read them, right? So there's just, for me, that's how I go about my collection, is I really only have books that I've read and enjoyed or I want to read. And I really, my collection is ever growing. And, at the beginning of 2024, I was like, I really need to focus on that. Focus on the things that I bought that were, really fun or interesting. I was excited to get them and have them in my home, and I want to be able to fully enjoy them. So I focused on that. And it was great. I feel like 2024 was a huge success as far as that goes. Like I said, I read only a couple books that I didn't own myself. Almost every book that I read in 2024 was a book that I own. You know, I found a lot of books that I own that I really, really loved in 2024, which is awesome. There were some books I did not love in 2024 that I own. So I was able to, you know, move those along to other homes for people who would appreciate them more. And, you know, made space for books that I can get now that I might really love. So, you know, it works out, you know, getting the books out that I don't necessarily love, make room for new books, and, you know, finding what needs to be in my house versus what do I no longer need to have in my possession. I really want to continue that as a goal for 2025, really focusing on the books that I already own, but I'm also, because I prefer physical books, I tend to ignore the ebooks that I own. And I recently went through all of my ebooks and created a spreadsheet for them, and it is a lot. And the unread percentage of my ebooks is a lot. And so I'm going to be addressing that in how I choose reading this year as well. I'm going to have a video coming up on my channel where I'm going to talk about my plans for that. But that is a focus for me, is continue to primarily read from what I already own, but also to try to get more into my ebook inventory, because that tends to get severely neglected. And the talk about books that just linger, man, my ebooks, I've had a Kindle for many, many years, so I've gotten many, many ebooks over the years, because I buy, you know, they go on, ebooks go on sale so often for like 99 cents or $1.99. And so when, you know, there's a book on my wish list and I see that it's dropped to that low price, like, I will buy it. And so over, like, I don't know, probably close to 15 years, I have done that many times. So I have a very large ebook collection that just kind of gets forgotten about because, you know, in my day-to-day life, I see my books physically in my house in front of my face. But my ebooks, I mean, I read my Kindle almost every day because it's what I read when I'm, like, before I go to sleep in bed, because it's just easier to read it, you know, like I don't have to deal with a physical book trying to get into, you know, a position that's going to be comfortable to read it in. So I'm like trying to fall asleep and everything. And the Kindle that I have has it has a light, so I can, you know, I can turn off the light in my room and it won't be a problem. You know, I don't have to have a light on to read. I can just like read the book and it's not a disturbance or anything. So it is something that I look at every day, but I don't go through the inventory on there every day. To be honest, when I do look at the inventory in my Kindle, it is unwieldy because it's just so many books that it's like hard to choose something because it just feels overwhelming. They don't deserve to be neglected. They do not deserve that. So I'm going to be addressing that as one of my goals for the year. That goal kind of ties into one of my other goals for the year, which is to focus on the books that are coming in, right? Because look, I collect books. I love books. I think they're beautiful. I love the way they smell. I love a book, right? And it's a separate hobby to collect them than to read them. But I really want to continue to be focused on because I want to focus on what I already have. I'm going to be more selective this year, continuing over what comes in, focusing on, you know, if I'm buying something, it's probably because it's going to be like a special edition. And if it's not a special edition, I feel like I'm going to have to justify to myself why I need a not special edition to come in right now when I'm trying to focus on reading what I've already got. So that's a goal that I had for 2024, and I feel like I was pretty successful. I'm going to continue that in 2025. We will see. We will see how successful I am, but that is my goal, is buying books if they're, you know, a special edition that I think is really cool and I want it. But if it's not special edition, then I've got to have like a good justification for why I'm going to bring it in, like right now, why it can't wait. And then also kind of tying in but not really, I really want to make time to reread books. I don't do that very often. I used to reread books all the time. You know, starting when I was a kid, I loved to reread the books that I really enjoyed, and it was so normal for me. I think as I've gotten older and my TBR has just grown and grown, I have found it harder to justify rereading a book that I've already, you know, that I know how I feel about it when there's so many books that I want to read and I don't know how I feel about them and I want to try something new. But I'm like, you know, there's not, again, it ties back to collecting books and reading books, two separate hobbies, right? But for me personally, I don't want to keep books in my house after I've read them if I wouldn't be willing to reread them at some point. For me personally, that's space that I would rather free up and send the book to another home, to someone who, again, might really love it and get use out of it, and then maybe they share it with somebody else too. So if there's a book where I'm like, I don't plan to reread you, then I don't feel like I need to possess it. But unfortunately, I just don't make time anymore like I used to reread books that I really enjoyed. So I do want to try to make an effort this year for some rereads of books that I've enjoyed. I did kind of start that already at the end of 2024. I reread the first Percy Jackson, The Lightning Thief, and you know what? It was great because I read it like a year before I reread it, and so it was long enough to where there was, you know, the intricacies of the plot points and, you know, things like that. I had forgotten so much of it. Like, I remembered the gist of the plot, I remembered my feelings about the book, but like the actual plot points as we were going through, there's so much that I had forgotten. And so it wasn't, I mean, it's not like it was a tedious reread. I was, you know, I had a pleasant time going through the reread, and set me up so that I, you know, I'm fresh in my mind of what happened because of wanting to read the second book in Percy Jackson, What Is That, the Sea of Monsters? I feel like it is. But anyway, I really liked that. It reminded me that I used to do that kind of thing all the time. You know, I reread books. I used to reread books all the time, and I've just gotten away from that in probably like the last 10 years. It's not common that I reread a book anymore, except maybe like Agatha Christie, but that's just because I've been rereading her books since I was a child. So it's normal to me to reread her books, but other books anymore, I just don't tend to pick up. So I want to address that. I want to address that for myself. Again, I don't have a numbers goal tied to that, but I don't know, just reread some books. Make myself pick up a book that I've already read that I know that I liked and feel okay with reading it. Because, you know, I there's so many times where I've thought about it, like picking up a book that I've already read and I know I like, but I'm like, well, I could reread this. But then I start thinking to myself, well, but look how many books that you still need to read that you've never read before. And like, in the time that it takes you to read this book that you've already read, you could be discovering something else, like figuring out how you feel about something else. And that's how I sort of like rationalize away picking up a book to read it again, even if it's a book I really liked, because I'm like, I pressure myself to do new things I haven't experienced before with books, when, you know, when I really just need to be like, look, it's okay to just like the things that you like and want to experience them again. And I have the same kind of experience with like TV shows or movies. Man, I used to be able to rewatch movies and TV shows so much, and I was fine with that. You know, I was fine with a balance of like new and rewatch. But nowadays, man, it's rare that I will rewatch because I have such limited time to do those kinds of things that I feel the pressure of like trying something new to discover what I haven't experienced before, rather than allowing myself to go back and enjoy the things I know that I like. So I've realized that this is a pattern with some of the, you know, the interests that I have, is the pressure of, you know, just time constraint, right? As we all get older, our schedules are busy, and there's only so many hours in the day. There's only so many hours that I have to do things that like are just for my enjoyment. And so it's a real pressure for me anyway. It's a pressure that I put on myself to like maximize that time. And man, downtime shouldn't be stressful. And I really want to focus on just like, I need to relax and just be okay with like spending my free time however I want to spend it, because it's not that much. And you know what? I deserve to just do like enjoy it how I want to enjoy it when I do get it. And so long story short, I don't know, we took a left turn somewhere in there. I want to reread books. So I'm going to try to reread some books this year. That's one of my goals. My favorite way to read books is physical books, and you know, rather than like ebooks, I prefer to have a book in hand. It's just what I really enjoy. I really haven't experienced that many audiobooks, not because I don't want to, but because I've had such a hard time with being able, like, feeling like I can follow the story as well when I'm listening to an audiobook as I can when I'm sitting down and reading. Like when I'm reading a book with my eyes, I can visualize, you know, in like my mind's eye what's going on in the book. So it's like a movie that plays in my mind when I'm reading a book. But that just doesn't, it doesn't happen as naturally if I'm listening to someone tell a story. So like an audiobook, I really struggle with that same kind of reading, or I guess this would be listening comprehension, right? I struggle with that same kind of visualization, and, you know, following along in the story, keeping track of everything. It's much harder for me to do when I'm listening to an audiobook, which is so weird because I listen to podcasts like every day, and I love podcasts, and I have no problem following along to a podcast, but for some reason there's just something different about an audiobook, or at least there has been. There has been in the past. Like, I've tried audiobooks throughout the years, and I just never feel like the comprehension is as good for me as it is when I'm like visually when I'm reading a book. So I've really only dabbled in audiobooks up to this point, but in 2024 I did try a couple of audiobooks and I really enjoyed them, and I was able to follow along like really well, and it worked out. And I don't know if it's just like some audiobooks are better for me with that than others, or if I was just in like the right state of mind when I was listening to them. But it made me realize that maybe audiobooks and I are not incompatible. Maybe it's just I need to try different ones, and I need to be in the right mood for it. I think that would probably be a lot of what my issue with it has been in the past, just not being in the right mindset to enjoy an audiobook in the moment. So I want to try more audiobooks in 2024. My preferred way to consume a story, I guess I should say, is still like visually reading the book. My comprehension is so much stronger that way. But I have had a good time with the couple of audiobooks that I read or listened to. I don't know. I'm not going to get into the whole debate, are audiobooks reading, because frankly, I don't care. People consume stories however you want to. But I had a good time with audiobooks in 2024, and I want to see if there's more. There's more that I might really like. And honestly, I was thinking to myself, that might be a good way to tie into my rereading plans, is to start with some books that I've already like visually read and I know that I like. Maybe try the audiobook and see, you know, if I can like follow, my comprehension is better as I listen to more of them, if it's a story that I'm already like familiar with. So that's one of my goals for the year, is to dabble a little more in audiobooks, maybe tie it into my rereading goal, and see how I feel about it. See how I feel about it at the end of 12 months, if I've changed my mind on, you know, how how I feel about my comprehension with listening to an audiobook, and because there's some really good ones out there. I know people sing praises all the time. I read recommendations all the time for really good high quality audiobooks, and I feel like I'm missing out. And so that's my goal, or well, one of my goals. Do some audiobooks. So I believe past Erica at the beginning of this video was like, I'm not gonna have any hard and fast goals for the reading year because like it's supposed to be fun. Okay, well, she's a liar, because I do have some actual like tangible goals that I guess it'll be the last goals that I talk about. I get one tangible / intangible is I want to also continue trying to get through some of the series that I have started. I do keep track of series that I've read, like at least started, you know, where I am in that series, what books I still need to read in it. I want to continue to make progress in my series reading. I think I'm in the middle of like 30 series right now, which I don't know, it sounds both like a lot and not a lot when I hear how many series other people are in the middle of, and it's like way more than 30. I'm like, whoa. But then I know people who literally just read like entire series at a time. Like they don't go and read other stuff in the middle. They just like read the series until the series is done, and then they move on to something else. So, you know, I guess I fall somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle, 30 series. Maybe that's a lot, maybe it's not. I don't know. It's just the reality of where I am with my series reading. So I want to continue to make some progress though, because if it's a series that I plan to continue, then when I wait too long, I end up forgetting the nuances, you know, of what's happened, characters, different situations, plot points, world building, and I really want to avoid that as much as possible. So I'm going to try to make progress in the series reading that I have in 2025. Try my best to, if not reduce the number of series that I have ongoing, then at least make real progress in how many books I get to in those series that I have ongoing. My ultimate goal someday would be to only like to have less than like 5 series going at one time, so that I can really focus on like just rotating between a few series at a time and keep that world building and characters and plot and everything fresh in my mind for each series that I am reading. That's kind of like a long-term goal for me. And I'm gonna try to bring that to fruition in the next few years. So we'll see how that goes. One of my other, so some more measurable goals for the year. I want to finish the First Law series. I finished the First Law trilogy, but there's 6 more books and a book of short stories that I still need to read, and I do have plans to do that. They are currently in progress, so I will have at least some progress on that goal this year, because it's happening right now as we speak. One of my other goals, I have all of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books. I have been seeing their praises on the internet for many years, and especially now they're getting you know, all of the like big publishing, like it's being actually published now, and you know, it's a big deal, good for Matt Dinneman. But I've been meaning to read them for years, and so that is one of my goals, to get through Dungeon Crawler Carl. Everyone says they go really fast because, I mean, they're intended to just be like light fun reads, and so you know what, I could use that. So I'm gonna try to do that this year, get through Dungeon Crawler Carl. When I was looking at all of the reading that I did in 2024, I realized I did not read any nonfiction in the whole year. The whole year of 2024. Apparently, I needed escapism in 2024. So, you know what, when I think about the things that were going on in my life in 2024, like I had just so many changes and really out of control schedule. Like my schedule was so demanding for things that I had to do. I understand why when I was picking up books, it was to like just escape. I want to escape and be not in this world when I'm reading. So I think that was what was driving driving my aversion to nonfiction in 2024, but it's unusual for me. Like, I like nonfiction. So my goal is to read a couple nonfiction books in 2025. Again, I don't have a hard number for this because it's going to be whatever it's going to be. I'm not going to force it, right? But even something like reading like 10 pages a day would still let me get through some nonfiction books. Maybe not even every day, but man, if I put in like 10 pages, you know, even half the time, I'm still going to get through, well, oh God, math is so hard. 10 times like 185 is like 1,850. Man, math is hard. 1,085. Look, it's still a good number of pages. Even if I only read like 10 pages every other day for the whole year of nonfiction, I would still end up getting through more than zero. I would get through more than 0 books, right? I mean, I guess unless I'm reading, I don't know, unless I pick up a book that's like 2,000 pages, then I guess I wouldn't. But I'm not going to pick up a nonfiction that's like 2,000 pages. Would a publisher even publish a book that big? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Even with something like that, and that honestly, that's kind of my casual nonfiction goal right now, is try to get through, like, I guess it comes down to like 5 pages a day of a nonfiction book. I'm still going to have some progress by the end of the year on that and getting back to like just choosing a nonfiction that seems interesting to me. So that's one of my goals too. With that, I think that that's officially, at least for now, all of my reading goals for 2025. They may change throughout the year. You know, I've never been a person that's like afraid to change my goals up as I need to, you know, assess throughout the year, because I think we all tend to do it at the end of the year or the beginning of the year. Well, not all of us, but many of us, we tend to look at those things because, I don't know, it's a time of like things feeling like they're getting refreshed and like, what do I need to change and new start and all that. But you know, as I go along throughout the year, if I need to change goals or I think of new goals, or I'm like, oh, these goals are stupid, then I'll just change it at that point. But as of right now, for the start of 2025, these are my reading goals for the year. And that's all that I've got. So I don't know. I'm hoping it's reasonable. I want it to be low pressure because, like, you know, like I said, this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. And like, I want to feel like I'm, you know, making progress with my hobby, but I also don't want to feel pressure with my hobby, because then it's no longer a fun hobby, right? So that's where I'm at. That's my goals. What are your goals for reading? Do you even have goals, or you're just like, nah, lady, I just pick up books that I like and that, or don't like. Maybe you pick up books you don't like. I don't know. But you're like, I just pick up books and I don't really think about it beyond that. And I'm like, you know what? That's a good approach too. But yeah, let me know. Let me know if you've got any reading goals, or if your goals have changed. Like, how do you feel you did if you had 2024 reading goals? Do you feel like you met them? Or do you feel like it wasn't a very good reading year, so you're changing your plans for 2025? Or did you do stuff in 2024 that really worked for you and you want to continue that? Let me know. Let me know what you think. That's all that I've got for you today. Thank you so much for coming by. I always appreciate it. Please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.